Well, if you don't call them back in a month, they're going to find somebody else to sell it to.
Joe McCall here. Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Mastery Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about how to wholesale houses. David is a friend of mine that's done a lot of wholesaling for houses. And so we're going to be talking about that. And we're going to be talking at it from an angle for beginners. Like, how do you get started doing this stuff if you're a beginner? You're a complete rookie. You've just heard about real estate and you're thinking, what is wholesaling? How do I do it? How does it work? We're going to be talking about that. And David's got a really cool free resource that we're going to give to you as well, showing you what it is and how it works, where you can learn how to do these deals for yourself. Cool. So first of all, this podcast is brought to you by strategypdf.com. I wrote a 9 or 10 page PDF document of how my sons and I, my two teenagers, this is a few years ago, we did over $150,000 flipping vacant land very, very part-time. And we created this strategy PDF that just shows you what we did. Very simple. You get it for free. It's just 9 pages. And I walk through the steps of how we do these deals. I think you'll like it. So go to strategypdf.com, strategypdf.com. It's free. Also, I've got something else if you want. simplelandcontract.com. If you want the actual contracts that we use to do deals like this, $11,200. Does that show up yet? There we go. $11,224 deal. If you want this contract, you get it for free at simplelandcontract.com. When you opt in, you're going to get an invitation to watch a class that teaches you how to use the contract and how to do deals for yourself. Cool. Should we bring David on? David, how are you, my man?
Hey, Joe, I'm doing good, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Tell about your story again, just real quickly, how you got started in the business. We were working together for a period of time. You were a massive action taker. I knew this guy was going to have success. And so you've been doing deals a long time now. One of the biggest, one of the biggest wholesalers in St. Louis. Where are you at?
I would say at one point I was.
Yes.
I pivoted more into buy and hold at this
Right.
point. So I have a portfolio of about 130 units and it's actively growing. We still do wholesaling, of course. I do a couple deals a month at a minimum. But yeah, Joe, you were my coach when I first started in this business. You know, I've been investing in real estate for 18 years, but I went full-time about 8 years ago. And I had never done a wholesale deal at that point. I was just, the guy that would save up money, go buy a rental property and get a loan from a bank and, put down 20%, which at $150,000 price point would require me to have 30 grand saved up. So the first 10 years, I was just very, very passively buying rental property. It was very slow. And then 8 years ago, I decided I wanted to start wholesaling and decided I want to be a full-time real estate investor. And I spun my wheels for 2.5 to 3 months. And then I discovered Mr. Joe McCall here. And I was like, holy cow, this guy is awesome. And I hired Joe. And within 3 weeks, I did 2 deals from Joe's help and Joe's efforts.
All I did was tell you, come up with a marketing plan and like, what are you going to do every day? And a scorecard. And you submit your numbers from the score. And it was just talking to people, wasn't it? It was just, you weren't spending, maybe you were spending some money on marketing, but like the deals you started doing came from just getting out there, knocking on doors, talking to people. You got deals. And I just held you accountable to the numbers that you gave me, the things that you said you wanted to do. That was it.
That's exactly right. But when I came into the program, I wasn't doing much marketing. And I think one of the main things that you taught me, Joe, is that this is a marketing business. Yeah. And, at the time I was maybe calling, 20 or 30 people a day and maybe sending out 10 or 15 letters a day. And I remember one of the things that you said, which I still think is hilarious to this day, but you were like, David, with these efforts, you'll probably get a deal somewhere between 1 and 2 years. And I had a good laugh. It wasn't rude by any means. It was the truth. It was totally the truth. And I was like, okay, so how do I get a deal in 1 to 2 months? And then you were like, 50x your marketing. Like if you're only talking to 20 people a day or even 10 people a day, like that's just not enough. So go cold call for a couple hours at a time or start sending hundreds, if not thousands of these postcards and letters. And that's what I did. I turned around right away and I said, all right, And I think I spent like $1,500 on a mailing campaign. And then I upped my cold calling from, 10, 20 people a day to 3 or 4 hours a day. And within like 3 weeks, I had 2 properties under contract and, wholesaled. So it's really, that was one of the best lessons that I've ever learned. And for anybody here watching today, right, this is a marketing business, guys and girls. This is a marketing business. And really, any business that we're in is a marketing business. It doesn't matter if you're a dentist or a doctor or a real estate investor. If nobody knows what business you're in, how do you expect for them to come to you and bring you a lead, right?
Yep.
It doesn't happen that way.
Yep.
So
I love that. It's all about marketing. Everything is marketing. Marketing is everything. All right, so let's talk what wholesaling is. Some people listening to this have like no idea. Wholesaling, what? That doesn't make sense. What is wholesaling houses?
I love it, man. Wholesaling houses is a way to flip properties, A, without buying them, and B, without fixing them. What? How do you flip a property that you don't own and that you don't have to fix it up? Well, here's how you do it. It's so simple. We use paperwork, and Joe just had an example of a land contract that he is offering to give you guys for free, right? So we use paperwork, just like that right there. All right. We use paperwork to go and we use that paperwork to secure our interest in property. All right. But again, we're not necessarily buying the property. We're just using paperwork to secure our interest in that property. But the goal here is that we got to get a great price. And then what we do is we take that deal or that contract to purchase the deal, and we take it to the open market, to our local RIA clubs, to Facebook groups, so on and so forth. And we market this deal, and we sell that deal or that contract to buy the deal at a good price. And essentially all we're doing is we're making a spread between great and good. And here's the thing. That spread for me on average is 8 to 10,000. But it doesn't have to be a low number. In fact, the biggest deal I've ever done, Joe, was $332,000, a wholesale deal.
That was your profit?
That was the profit. It was 480,000 gross. Isn't that awesome? And we netted 300,000 after we paid some partners and some private lenders, because we did have to, get a little creative with that deal. But you can make several $100,000.
And that wasn't a house, was it? It was something else.
This was a package of houses.
Okay.
It was 60 houses plus a 30 unit apartment complex and another 12 units and some vacant lots. And it was a big old package of properties. But I essentially used paperwork to gain control of it. And then I found a bunch of people that wanted it. And I made the spread from the great price that I had offered the seller to the good price that I was offering my investors to be able to buy those deals.
You flipped paper.
Flip paper. That's exactly right.
Flip paper. So you don't have to buy the house. You don't have to close on it. You just get it under contract to buy it at a certain price. For houses, maybe it's 60 cents on the dollar, and then you sell it for 70, 80 cents on the dollar to somebody else who's going to fix it up, rent it out, manage it, and maybe flip it themselves or hold it themselves. So that's the beautiful thing about it. And if you do it right, you don't have to use any of your own money either. It helps if you've got some, but if you've got
if you got some, for sure, because it helps get your phone to ring. Like what is marketing, Joe? In my opinion, marketing is just a fancy word that confuses everybody. But what does it mean? It means getting people on the phone.
Yeah.
That's all it means. So it's either you spend time to get people on the phone, or you spend money to get them to call you, which ultimately gets them on the phone. Yeah. It's that simple.
All right, cool. So what kind of marketing do you send out to get the phone to ring?
Love it. So we do direct mail to probates.
What's a probate?
Probate is when somebody dies, but they don't have like a trust or a will, and the family, right? Typically it's not necessarily the spouse, but it can be, but typically it's the children. They want to sell the home, and the home isn't titled in their name, so they can't legally sell the home. So they need a probate court to legally allow for the title to be transferred out of the deceased's name. So we do a lot of direct mail to probate. We do a lot of cold calling and cold texting to vacants and absentees. We have a Google AdWords or pay-per-click campaign to a website. for anybody that searches, sell my house fast in St. Louis, Missouri. And then we do a ton of networking. In fact, I would say 20 to 30% of all the deals I do at this point come from either my
Yeah,
networking efforts or from other
that's
wholesalers
awesome.
that can bring me a deal, but they still leave enough meat on the bone to where they can make a cut. They can make 10 grand, 20 grand, 30 grand in some cases, right? But they still leave me a good deal to where I can buy it, add it to my portfolio of rentals, or fix and flip it for a profit.
So you're doing outbound marketing. There's also inbound marketing. So
Doing both.
outbound marketing might be cold calling. You're cold calling.
Calling, texting, door knocking.
Or not, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
stuff
more
like that.
you being more aggressive out there. And then inbound marketing is you send a letter, says, "Hey, call me if you want to sell your house." Right.
That's exactly right.
And so there's different kinds of leads you get, and some cost more than others, but it's important to be kind of diversified. One of the things I remember that we did was you had to come up with like 2 or 3 different types of marketing that you would do every day or every week. And you had a scorecard, and your goal was maybe to send 500 letters a week, make 20 cold calls a day, talk to 5 realtors a day or something like that. So there's these metrics that you need to follow. Cause I like to say this too, you can't control how many deals you're going to do in a month. You can't control how much average profit you're going to make on each deal, but you can control how many sellers you talk to every day and how many offers you make every day. And if your goal is to make 3 offers a day, you're going to do deals. It's like almost impossible not to, right?
Absolutely. And you can reverse engineer the KPIs, Joe. So, for example, if I'm going to go run, let's say I'm going to go run, 10 appointments. I'm typically going to get 1 or 2 deals out of 10 appointments.
Yeah.
When I was new, it might have been 20 or 25 appointments to get a deal, right? Now I could probably do 1 out of 5, but let's not get too aggressive. Let's just say it's 1 out of 10. So I can reverse engineer this. I can say, all right, how much effort do I need to do, or how much money do I need to spend on my marketing, right, to be able to get myself 10 appointments, right? If that equals, 300 cold calls for 1 appointment, well, then I know I need 3,000 calls to get 10 appointments. 10 appointments is going to lead me into a deal. So you can reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I learned from hiring you and working with you, and again, this is 8 years ago, which is
Yeah.
crazy at this point, but the group wasn't, it was a good size. It wasn't small. It wasn't big. There's like 15 of us in that group. And the people that were doing deals, come the week 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever it was, I think it might have been a 10-week program or something like that. But people that were doing deals, their scorecards were filled out. They were doing things, right? And the people that weren't doing any deals were the people that were just like the rest of the group in the beginning that weren't doing any marketing. It's those who take action and do the marketing and get people on the phone and set the appointments, they're going to fall into deals.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, are you getting people on the phone, and are you out there, shaking hands and making friends?
Yeah. And that pushes people, it makes people feel uncomfortable a little bit. Well, I don't know. Do you hate money?
Yeah, right.
All right. So let's talk about, who do you sell these deals to and how do you find them? So you get a seller that says, all right, they inherited a property. They just want to get rid of it. They don't want to spend all the time in fixing it up and selling it. And they say, all right, I want to get rid of it. I'll sell it to you. You agree on a price. Then what do you do? Who do you sell it to? Who do you flip it to?
Yeah, so I'm on both sides of this fence at this point, and I have been for several years. So it's really great, But for the most part, when you are new and you go and you find a seller that's motivated and they need to sell, what we're doing is we're typically providing convenience to them in exchange for a discount. I hear this all the time. Why would somebody sell you a property for 50 cents on the dollar? And my rebuttal to them is because I am helping them solve problems in their life and in their business. And then people will follow that question up with, well, how many of these people are there really truly out there? And my response to them is, well, I've done over 700 wholesale deals. Therefore, I've helped over 700 people out of problems, right? So what we do is we offer convenience. What does that look like? It's typically a cash offer. It's quick, and that's a relative term, a couple weeks, right? And then most importantly, it's as is. So we're buying properties from people that don't want them anymore. We're buying properties from people that need, they have a lot of work needed, on these properties. So we use the paperwork, like I mentioned earlier, to gain control of the property. And then, Joe, to answer your question, we take that to the local Facebook groups. We take that to the local RIA, real estate investment clubs, that we're all a part of. We might even make a post on Facebook Marketplace or even sites like Craigslist. And what we are doing is we are marketing the equitable interest that we have, or the contract to purchase that deal. We're not really marketing the deal because we don't own the house. We're marketing our contract to buy the house. And if you can buy it at a great price or get it under contract, I don't even want to use the word buy because I'm never buying these houses typically. I'm just using paperwork, right? If I can get them under contract at a great price, and then I can take it to the local Facebook groups or the RIA club or whatever, and I can find another investor like myself who's also a landlord and a fix and flipper, and I can say, hey, I got this good deal for you, right? I got it at a great price. I'm going to sell it to you at a good price. I'm going to make that spread in between, but I'm going to still leave meat on the bone for the fix and flippers and the landlords. That's who typically becomes the buyer. Now, if you're talking about land, it might be a little bit different type of buyer, but typically speaking, on a single family or a small apartment building, the buyer is another investor. So it's just another person in your market.
Yep. All right. So you don't have to have a real estate license to do this, right?
Nope.
Does it help to have a license? What do you think?
You know, I just got my license 3-4 weeks ago, call it a month ago, but I didn't have one for the first 18 years.
Yeah.
So do you need one? Absolutely not. Why did I get mine? The reason I got mine is because I just wanted to have that tool in my belt. When I go out and I run an appointment with somebody that's got a nice home, I'm not doing this in bad areas, right? But let's say I come across somebody that's got a house that's worth 3 or 4 or 500,000. And I make them an offer at, like, let's say 60 cents on the dollar for that home. And they say, Dave, I know that we're going to have to sell it at a discount, but we can't go that low. I would sell it at 75% of what it's worth because I know it needs work, but I'm offering 60. Well, it might not work for me to be able to buy that as a fix and flip or a rental at that number, but I can still help those people by listing that property. So do you need it? No. Is it required? Absolutely not. Is it going to give you more tools in your belt if you do have it? Yes. The only thing that you need to do differently by having it is just disclose when you're making offers that you are a licensed real estate agent. However, you're not acting as an agent. You're acting as a principal in the transaction, which is just one sentence on the contract. I am licensed acting as a principal. That's it. That's all there is to it.
All right, good. So you've got a seller that says, I'll sell it to you at a discount. You find a buyer that wants to buy it. How does the paperwork work? When do you actually,
It's a great
and how do you
question.
close on it? Do you?
So there's two very common ways that this is going to work. 99% of the time, it's going to happen one of these two ways. Number one is we are going to assign our rights in the contract to our cash buyer, our investor buyer, right? And the assignment's like half of a page. It's like 2 paragraphs. It basically just says, I have this property under contract for X, and I'm going to sell it to you for Y, or I'm going to assign it to you for Y. And let's say the difference between those two numbers is 10,000. And then they sign that, and then they essentially step into my shoes and they go to the closing table in a week or 2 or 3, and they close on it. The title company collects the money from them, pays the seller, and then pays me. That's the simple way. It's called an assignment. All right. The other way is a double close. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to use a contract to gain control of the property from the seller. And then we're going to find the buyer, but instead of using an assignment agreement, which is basically going to disclose what we're paying and what we're making, we're going to use that exact same agreement, maybe make a couple changes to it, but it's basically the same 1 or 2 page agreement. And we're going to sell that property to our cash buyer. Now, we don't even own the property when we're doing this. We're essentially selling them a property that we plan to buy.
Yeah.
And it's very good and smart to kind of be transparent with them, let them know, hey, I have it under contract. We're going to be closing on, like, let's say the 20th. I plan to sell it to you on the 20th as well. And our contract is contingent upon me buying it first. And that's it. It's so simple. So you can use an assignment, or you can just use another sale contract. If you are going to use a sale contract, you're going to want to make sure that they're going to close on the same day to prevent you from actually having to go buy the home before you sell it. So on average, Joe, whenever I'm going and I'm getting a property under contract, on average, I'm putting down $10 in earnest money. So whenever we say, little to no money, you are going to need something to get a property under contract typically, but it doesn't have to be 10 grand or 40 grand or 200 grand. $10 is the average amount of money that I use on my contract and that I deposit into a title or escrow company to make that contract valid.
Okay, so title company handles all the paperwork. They make sure that everything gets recorded properly. How much does a good title company cost? What do you pay them typically on a deal?
It's a great question. So typically the majority of the cost whenever a real estate transaction takes place is going to be on the buyer side of the deal. So for a seller, they're typically paying somewhere between $300 and $500. That's it, right? The buyer, it's going to typically be somewhere between 500 and 2,000. Why is it such a big range? Well, the reason is because the buyer is the one who purchases title insurance, and title insurance has a cost depending on the value of the property. So if the property's 50 grand, your title insurance policy is going to be $300 or $400, right? Plus your cost of closing the deal. If your property's, 400 or 500 grand, you may have a $2,000 or $3,000 title insurance policy. But to answer your question, I often, when I'm buying properties directly from motivated sellers, I offer to pay their closing costs. And on average, it's probably about $1,500 to $2,000 in fees to buy the property. But if I'm wholesaling it, it comes out of that great to good spread that I've mentioned a few times. So let's say I have a $10,000 spread, but I'm going to, not assign my deal. I'm going to double close it. Well, I may walk with 8,500 after all the fees and title work.
Any more these days, now that you've got a lot of deals and you're doing a lot of them, do you ever just and you find a deal that you want to wholesale? Do you ever just close on it as quickly as you can and then maybe sell it a few weeks later?
Absolutely. We do
Or
that all the time.
now,
Yep.
do you when you sell it a few weeks later, do you put it back on the MLS? Do you clean it up a little bit? Like,
Yeah. So what you're referring to is what I like to call wholetailing. So wholesaling is buying a property off market and selling a property off market. Well, there's another way to do this, and it's typically a more profitable way, in my opinion. So how does that work? Well, we source a property direct to seller off the market, right? And then we take it to the MLS and we sell it on the market. And here's the
you
cool
will
thing.
buy
You
it.
don't even have to buy it to
Okay.
do
Right.
this,
Yeah.
but it makes it a whole lot easier when you do own it, when you're going to list it and so on and so forth. So yes, you can do it both ways,
Well, the
Joe.
biggest advantage to that, right, is that now you get it on the MLS, which gets it on Zillow and Realtor.com and Redfin and all of
Everywhere.
those big sites to the biggest audience of buyers, right?
Right.
So there's some costs and expense with that. You're maybe using somebody else's money to actually close on the deals. You have to pay them interest.
Mhm.
You're paying a realtor commissions, right? It's
But you don't have to leave as much meat on the bone.
ooh,
So
okay. So that's what
typically
I wanted
the
to ask you.
offset,
So, like,
yeah.
can you make more money doing it that way?
Yes, you absolutely can, because you're going to have, so in St. Louis, I don't quote me on this, but I want to say there's like 12,000 agents, give or take. So you have all of these agents that are essentially trying to sell your deal for you
Yeah.
because they're going to get a piece of commission too, right? So when you use the MLS or the multiple listing service, I like to call it the massive list of buyers. That's my abbreviation because that's what it is. It's a bunch of buyers on there, right? But you're utilizing all these other agents. So there are going to be fees to list it via paying commissions to these agents. But there's flat fee listing services out there where you can list a property for 500 to $1,000 and then offer to pay 2 to 3% to the buyer's agent. And then
Yep.
but here's the thing. Let's say that cost you, 3, 4, 5 grand to sell the deal. You're often going to be able to get 10 or 20,000 more. So are you okay paying $3,000 in fees to make 15 extra grand? I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
No problem.
So you're
Pros and cons, right?
Yeah, so you're paying a little bit more money. What if you don't have much money? Where do you get that money from? Can you go to a
So
bank and borrow the money?
yeah, you can, but my favorite thing to do is to use private and hard money lenders. And you can meet these individuals at your local RIA clubs. That's where I met all of my private lenders. Hard money lenders are, very similar to private money lenders. The only difference essentially is a hard money lender is lending out of an LLC. They're lending out of a business that was essentially established to lend money. Whereas a private money lender is, just think about the name for a second. Private. It's a private deal. So like a lot of my private lenders are family, friends, family, cousins, relatives, aunts and uncles, people that I are in my inner circle, or just friends, right? And they're not essentially looking, they're not pulling my credit. They're like, hey, you got a really good deal on a piece of real estate and you can flip it and make 20 grand. Cool. And I'll either pay them an interest rate or sometimes I'll even just cut them in and say, hey, help me out with this. I'll give you 20% of my profits. So there's an endless amount of ways to structure these deals. But yes, Joe, to answer your question, private lenders, hard money lenders, some people I know use bank lines of credit or HELOCs. Others will have, just go to the bank and get a loan. But personally, going to the bank and getting the loan is the worst way because it takes so much time,
Yeah.
right? I can call a private or hard money lender and get the money in a week.
One of the reasons why I love land, if I can throw this in, is to
Mm-hmm.
buy a deal. I only need $5,000, $10,000, and I own the deal outright. Like you can do that on a credit card. You can
Right.
buy, get a $10,000 credit card, which is not that hard to do.
Yeah, it makes the barrier to entry
Yeah.
much, much
Buy it
less.
with a credit card, sell it 2 months later, pay off the credit card, and then just keep on redoing that. Anyway, um,
Love that.
let's keep it simple here. There's somebody that wants to get started wholesaling houses. They just want to make 5 or 10 grand a month. They just want to make 5 grand a month, right? That's 60 grand a year. That will replace most jobs out there.
Oh, yeah.
So what are some of the daily activities that somebody needs to do one deal a month? Just make 5 grand a month. What's some of the daily things that they should be doing every day?
I love it. I wrote a book on this exact topic, and it's called The 3 Pillars of Wholesaling.
Oh, good.
And you don't even need to go buy it. I'm not going to sit here and try to sell you on this or
Well, we
pitch
are
you
going
on
to tell
this.
you how to get it, though.
I'm going to tell you how to get it. You can find it on Amazon and Audible, but I'm going to tell you what this book says right here, right now. So there's 3 pillars. And one of the ways I like to describe it before we jump into these pillars is you got to look at these kind of like a 3-legged bar stool, right? If you pull one of these out, that stool's going to fall. And I always tell, all of my students, as well as, anybody that I'm talking to or working with, hey, there's 3 things that you really need to be focusing on every day or very, very often. And they're very, very simple, right? So number 1 is marketing. Remember earlier, I just said that all that really means is just getting people on the phone. That's all that is.
Yeah.
You got to get on the phone with people that own property. If you're wanting to start this business and you're brand new, and some people I even talk to say, oh, I've been a wholesaler for 2 months. And I'll ask them, well, how many people have you talked to? How many appointments have you ran? And they say, well, I haven't gotten that far yet. And it's like, well, you haven't done anything yet because that's the business, right? It's good that you're educating yourself, but really you got to get on the phone with people. So number 1, you got to have a marketing budget, right? And the marketing budget doesn't have to be money. It can be time or money, but it's got to be something. It's got to be a plan. So number 1 is marketing, Joe. You got to get people on the phone that own properties. All right. Number 2, you got to make offers to those people. It doesn't even have to be houses. It can be land, right? But if you're running appointments and talking to people that own properties and you're not making appointments, you're wasting all of your time. All of it is worthless, right? So number 2 is you have to make offers to those people. So it's pretty simple, right? Pretty straightforward so far. Number 3, you got to follow up with these people that you're talking to and or that you've made an offer to.
Yep.
Because oftentimes what happens is they say, hey, I'm not ready to sell today. Call me in a month. Well, if you don't call them back in a month, they're going to find somebody else to sell it to. Or if you've made them an offer and they didn't like your offer, it was a little too low, but it was in the ballpark and they need time to think about it, and you don't follow up with them, they're going to find somebody else to sell that property to. So we must be very, very diligent when it comes to following up. But that's it. Those are the 3 activities. Some people like to refer to them as the money-making activities. I refer to them as the 3 pillars of wholesaling because you got to do those 3 things and you got to be consistent with those 3 things. And if you do those 3 things, you will do deals.
Talk
I
to
promise
sellers,
you.
make offers, follow up.
It's that simple.
Don't
overthink it.
We tend to complicate this business. We think, oh, I just need to buy another book. I need to listen to another podcast, watch another YouTube video, buy another course, go to another boot camp, sign up for another coaching program. The business comes down to just a few things, right? Do the
It's so
marketing
simple.
so you can talk to sellers, so you can make offers, so you can follow up. Like that's all you need to focus on, and you will do deals.
That's exactly right. So like I was saying earlier, it takes me anywhere between 5 and 10 appointments to buy a house. What that really means is it takes 5 to 10 offers to buy a house, right? And if I make an offer to somebody, and I don't ever follow up with them, it might take 30 or 40 offers to buy a house. But because I'm making the offer and then I'm following up with them a couple days later, a couple weeks later, maybe even a couple months later in certain circumstances, right? Eventually, these people are going to say, okay, we're ready to sell. Let's work with Dave. Let's get this deal done. So that's it. It's so simple, though. Don't overthink it.
I was just looking at a land deal we did. We sold it the first week in May, second week in May, so a week ago. And that lead first came in November. So November, December, January, February, March, April, May, 7 months of follow-ups from when we first sent that letter till we finally did the deal. Bunch of follow-up. It's the follow-up. So people underrate it, don't understand it, don't know how important it is.
It's probably the most important. I mean, you got to look at it like this way. You're not going to get appointments and have opportunities to make offers if you don't get people on the phone. So, marketing is probably the most important thing because it gives you opportunity. All right.
Yep.
But then once you have opportunity, you got to seize the day and get out there and, meet people or even just get on the phone with them, make friends, but you got to make the offer. And then if they don't like the offer, which let's be honest, 95% of the time or greater, they're not going to like it today. Later, they will, though. So you have to follow up with them, right? So, Joe, that's funny that you bring that up. My average deal that my business partner and I do and our team does is 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean every single deal we do takes that much time. By all means, that's not what I'm saying. The average deal, I've done 700 wholesale deals so far. The average deal, it takes 4 to 6 months. And it requires the seller, some time to get motivated enough to say, okay, I finally come to the conclusion that my property isn't what I think it's worth. Like I can't tell a seller, hey, you're crazy, you're unreasonable. They're never going to want to work with me, right? But what I can do is I can say, hey, if you can get somebody to pay you more, that's, I wish that, I want that for you. Hopefully you can. But to me, this offer makes sense. I believe it's fair, and here's why. So here's the offer I'm making to you today. And if they like the offer today, then great. I'm going to send them a contract. And if they don't, then I'm going to keep following up with them and I'm going to keep asking, hey, did you find somebody to pay you more? No? Oh, okay. Well, hey, I just want to remind you, I'm still interested. I know my number's less than what you want, but it is an offer. Do you have any other offers? And most of the time the answer is no. And at some point they're going to come around and they're going to say, okay, I'm being unreasonable. This is actually the true value, so on and so forth.
We, with Gavin, my coaching business partner, we looked at how many deals we did in a year period. And it was about 58 deals we did. Those are houses, right? And then we looked at, all right, well, how much follow-up did we do on those 58? Only 4 of those deals of the 58 came from that first phone call with the seller.
Oh, yeah.
So if we would not have done any follow-up, we would have only done 4 deals that year.
That's it. Isn't that wild? So you guys are essentially leaving, that's about 8% roughly, right? Give or take. So you would have essentially left 92% of the deals on the table if you would have made one call and stopped. And that's how it is for everybody in this business. The more follow-up you do, the more deals you will do, period.
Let's say you don't have any money for marketing right now, and you're just getting started. Network with other investors, get into the groups, and then ask people out there, hey, what are you doing with your old leads? Right? What are you doing with your old leads? Give them to me.
Oh, yeah.
I'll call them all. I'll follow up with them. I'll send them offers and we'll split the deals 50-50.
We'll split the deals. There's
I
a gold
guarantee
mine in everybody's leads.
You'll find more leads
Absolutely.
than you can handle if you just get out there and start getting on the phone.
That's a great approach for new
Networking
people
with
that
people.
don't have money
Let
to
me
get
work your
started.
old leads. Let me please. And then you'd use their CRM. So it's all open book, right? You put your notes into their CRM, but you start getting on the phone, calling 5, 10, 20 old leads every day. So many people are sitting on gold right now.
So much gold. So much gold. And Joe, it's funny that you say that because, when we look at deals that we've closed, I'm very curious. Like, hey, how much follow-up did we do? And I told you earlier, it's 4 to 6 months. But what does that mean? Like, what does that equal, right? The average deal we do is 15 to 20 follow-ups or greater. 15 to 20. Now, a follow-up can be a text. It can be an email. It can be a phone call, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be getting them on the phone every single time. I may text them and they may not respond. I may text them again the next day. They may not respond. I may call them and leave them a voicemail. These are all touches, right? And it usually takes 15 to 20 touches for somebody to actually get, in their head, that either A, they're being unreasonable, or B, hey, I'm tired of trying to think I can get more. Let's just take this offer and move on. Because at the end of the day, a problem is being solved. It might be the property, but it might not be the property. It might be death or divorce or disease or pre-foreclosure or all these other things that, can be misfortunes for people.
Well, here's the cool thing. Some of you guys might get discouraged, like, oh no, I have to do all that work. No, you should be encouraged by that because your competition's not doing it.
Not doing
Even
it,
if you're in a competitive market like Nashville, Denver, Phoenix, wherever, every market's competitive, really.
right?
You can stand above your competition just by doing more follow-up than anybody else,
Amen.
working other people's old leads and following up with them.
Yep. I mean, it's probably, like I said earlier, it's probably the most important thing of the three,
Yeah.
right? Marketing, making offers, and following up. The only downside is that you can't follow up with the lead you don't have. So you have to generate that lead from the marketing, and then you have to then go nurture that lead and make an offer to that lead. And then from there, if you don't get the deal, that's okay. That's normal. Follow up with that lead and it will become a deal.
Yeah.
And Joe, we close deals all the time, several a year that are 3 and 4 and 5 years old. You just got to be persistent with these
Yeah.
people. You
Okay,
can't
real
give
quick.
up.
We got a few more minutes. Let's talk about
Yeah, absolutely.
REI School. What is
Yes, sir.
this is so cool. I want you guys to check it out. I want you guys to go visit it. So it's REI School with a K.com. All right.
It's school spelled the cool way.
Well,
That's what I like to say. School spelled the cool way. So it's SKOOL. And yes, REI for real estate investor
yep.
school.com. That's where you'll find it. And yep, I'll be happy to share my
Share
screen.
your
Give me
screen
one
here. Let's take
sec.
a look at it. It's completely free. I want to invite you guys to come and watch it because in here, David has a lot of really cool stuff, and I've been looking at it. He's got a great community. It's very engaged, and he's got some great free lessons and free classes in there. And if you participate enough, you get some of his books for free, I think.
So we have a free course on wholesaling. We have a free course on landlording. We even have a contract generator, right, Joe? So if you don't have a contract, we have one for you. I know you give away a ton, but I have built out a tool that will help you generate a contract in real time in under 3 minutes. So all you need is your seller's information, the offer price, the address, and just a couple other small little things, right? We also have a course in there on data. We have a private money course, all of the call replays. So I do a lot of different trainings inside of here on driving for dollars and CRMs and how to run appointments. And we have case studies and we have cold calling sessions and all different types of stuff that we include in there. And here's the great part. It's all for free, right? This is all free, right? We also have a calendar of events in here. So usually 2 times a week, sometimes even 3 times a week, I'll jump on and I'll do a free training on a different topic, which is really, really cool. We also have a virtual RIA that meets on Sunday afternoons. There's a member directory in here, which is so cool because it will allow you to go in and communicate, collaborate with other real estate investors that are investing in your neighborhood, right? And the group's growing, so there's more and more people joining every day. We do have a leaderboard that I mentioned earlier that will allow people to, gain access to more free stuff. And then, of course, the most important thing, my favorite thing, is the community, right? So we have ourselves a group here. So if you want to go in there and learn, if you want to, sign up for some of the free trainings on the calendar, that's great. But the community itself is a great place to collaborate, share deals, learn about deals. I love when people post pictures of properties in there and say, hey guys, what do you think the, repair estimates, for this property are? And everybody will chime in, and some people will say, hey, I think it's 20, and other people will say 30, and then no one's arguing, but we're all having a conversation on why we think it is what we think, and we're all learning together. And I really, really encourage people to collaborate and joint venture with each other, because some of the best deals can be, oh, I got a buyer in that neighborhood for exactly that property. Don't even waste a bunch of time and energy trying to go sell it. Can I shop it to one of my buyers, and people can do deals together, and they can both win and they can both get paid.
Yeah, I love it. So it's free. Go to REI School, SKOOL, and check it out. David, good talking to you, man.
Joe, thanks for having me, man. It's always a pleasure.
Always
Thank
a
you for
pleasure.
helping me 8 years ago. Without you, I wouldn't have 700 plus deals under my belt, my
Oh,
friend.
I wish I had a bell. I could ring a bell right here. That's so awesome. Um, a lot of things I wish I could talk about, have more time to talk about. Maybe we'll have David on for another podcast. But you also have a podcast too, right? Don't you?
I do. It's called Discount Property Investor because that's what we do, right?
Yep.
We buy properties at discounts. So yes, check it out.
Discountpropertyinvestor.com. YouTube channel, David Dodge.
David Dodge. Yep.
All right. Thank you, David, for being on the show. Really
Thank
appreciate
you,
you,
Joe.
man. You're a
Appreciate you. Have a
go-giver.
great rest of your day, man. Appreciate you.
You're a go-giver. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, guys, thank you so much for watching these videos. If you like my channel at all, please hit the subscribe button. Get the notification bell thing clicked so you can get notified when new videos come out. Really appreciate it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Comment down below, all right? Thank you.